Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Rosabel Unscripted. Today, we're going to be diving into a topic that touches every one of us at one point or another. We're going to be talking about grief, but not just grief as pain, maybe grief as a pathway for healing and growth. My guest today is someone who embodies that transformation beautifully. Her name is Ada Malavé. She's a transformational coach, grief coach, author, speaker, certified practitioner, and NLP coach. You are also an ordained minister who's been serving your community for over 38 years. Yeah, and I am jealous about this. You are joining us from the beautiful island of Puerto Rico. I was just thinking, like, I want to be there at the beach. Come down.
Beach is kind of rough now, but you could sit at the edge.
Okay. So, Ada, your mission is to help people rebuild confidence, discover purpose, and find inner peace, of course, after loss. You use a holistic blend of mindfulness, breathing, meditation. You are also an author of the book Serenity After the Storm, a holistic guide for grieving women to rebuild confidence and purpose. And you also have a Spanish edition?
I have two. I have one in English that I published first, and my Spanish one just got published about 2 weeks ago. I did a birthday book bash, which was October 18th.
That's all.
Rich book to the community. Yeah.
That is awesome. I'm
I-
so grateful that you're here.
I'm
You
happy
have
to be.
spent decades helping others after retiring from public service. What did you do?
I worked for the Social Security Administration. I started working there when I was 19 and hired in 2016. And I went through different types of positions. And my last position was in Ponce as a director of the hearing and appeals section. And I used to drive from Moca to Ponce. So that was an hour and a half going and an hour and a half coming back. There was a reason behind that, and it had to do with my mother. My mother decided that she wanted to move in with me. She was already showing signs of dementia. And for her to say that she wanted to move with me, I was like, oh my God, this is God. Because she was a
Wow.
little showing signs of dementia. So I got this new position and I was told that I could move there. And I asked my mother that, and she says, Te vas tú, you go. I stay here. I said, okay, God, I will do the trip because I want her to be safe. I want her to feel comfortable.
Wow. Can you share with us what inspired the shift and how your experience with loss shaped your path as a grief coach?
Yeah. Once I retired and spent some time with my mother before she passed on, she transitioned in 2016. I had gone through a lot of grief myself, a lot of loss, losing loved ones, losing my own pet. 2 pets I lost. Moving from New York to Puerto Rico. So I lost that part of me transitioning to Puerto Rico that I never lived in. I was born here, but I never lived here. And then I guess the one that really made me think about what I wanted to do was when I lost my son-in-law in 2015. He was only 30 years old. He had lymphoma. He was in Virginia with my daughter and the 3 kids. It was rough for her, rough for everybody, especially the kids. Once he passed, I told my daughter to come and live with me. That night, she called me crying and, of course, crying. And that really broke my heart and said, oh my God, how could I have helped her more? Because he was in palliative care. At one point, she did mention, Ma, this smells like death in here. Take a deep breath and just be with him. After she moved here with me for a couple of years, that reminded me of the need for us to share the processing of grief and how to handle it, with family members, friends, not just say, there's an angel up there now, because you don't want to hear that. You lost someone that you really, truly loved. You can go different ways. How to process that, There's 5 stages of grief: anger, denial,
Bargaining,
bargaining, acceptance. There's one more.
acceptance? No, you already said acceptance. I always tend to forget them, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, there's 5 steps.
Oh, so anger, denial, acceptance. Yeah,
I should go to my
forget it.
negotiation.
Negotiation. You
Do you
just keep like
negotiate?
bargaining, and aren't they the same?
Yeah, denial, anger, negotiation,
Depression. I thought about that. Yes, that's the one
and
that was missing.
go into a deep depression or a simple depression, meaning that it's not long-term one. A long-term one could be years. Short-term one could be a couple of maybe weeks that you just don't want to get up from bed. You don't want to eat. You don't want to. And then at some point you come together with yourself and you look and see where you really want to go with this loss. And a lot of the loss, I always see it as someone that you loved, and it's love. It's just that you don't have them anymore physically with you, but you still have them in your heart and your memories. And the part of acceptance, that's where we move to, knowing that they're around, they're in your memory bank, they're in your heart.
Yeah, and everybody processes loss in different ways.
Yes.
Everybody.
Yes.
And I think it's also important for families to have some sort of a knowledge of what that actually, because there's a lot of judgment that sometimes
Oh,
comes from not knowing how
10.
grief is being processed.
Yes. Yes.
And
It's
I
not.
know that, and I know that very on my own life experience because I lost my mother when I was 17 and I grieve differently. And if we live in a culture, especially we're going to talk about cultures. You and I, we both share the commonality that we have the good of two good worlds. We have the American culture aside, and we also have our Hispanic Latino culture.
Yeah.
And they're two different worlds in so many ways, especially when it comes to grieving. And I remember when I was grieving my father because the Hispanic communities, I don't know, but back in Colombia, they probably expected me to be a lot more vocal. And so if you don't do certain things, you must have not felt it.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
You didn't cry enough.
Exactly. Or I
You think,
didn't cry on the time that I was supposed to, or something. Because in my case, I maybe cried once a little bit during the moment, but then I did not fully cry until I was on my own, like 3 months later. I was just focused on what needs to happen next. And so people were looking at me like, what's wrong with her? But they had no idea what's going on inside my heart. So
yeah.
and then you have to deal with that too. So grief can take so many forms, and many of us really don't understand. But from your experience, Ada, what do people need to know about a part of the few things that we already talked here about the grieving process? I mean, are they different types of grief that perhaps we may not recognize in ourselves or others?
Yeah, we can talk about so many different types of griefs. I mentioned some of them sometimes. Well, we go into the cultural and the way people think. If we lose a dog or a cat, people were not used to grieving them or seeing people grieve. They're part of the family, they're part of your love group. So, yeah, you're going to have emotions. You're going to cry about that because you lost something that was dear to your heart and you shared so many moments together. Losing your own identity, losing your job, lo-
Divorce,
divorce. Yes, your identity right there is one of them. Empty nesters. I'm one. Losing
friendships.
your country, your friendships, any type of relationships, of all these types of losses, all miscarriages. These things are not really acknowledged as something to grieve. So when we go through, I've been through a couple of my own miscarriages and I never really sat with them enough. But I do think about what these children could have been in the future. So these things are not acknowledged and they're not giving the right to be grieved. So
Right.
what
Or
should
the
we?
proper time to
Yeah,
process.
it's very personal. Grieving is very personal. For me, when my father passed away, like you, Rosabel, on the go, get things done, get the funeral done, get this done, paperwork, whatever. When I got home after the burial, I closed myself in the room and I was there by myself for a while. And yet I had not cried. I cried later on. I just needed that moment to absorb everything that had happened. We might have those moments to be quietly by ourselves. And we need that. We need that a lot, not just during the grieving process, but in life itself. We should be taking a few minutes and sitting with our
Yes.
emotions. It's very important, especially during grieving process. And if you're processing a emotion that you don't know the name of it, sit with it for a little bit and give it a name. Oh, I feel ashamed. Oh, I feel angry. And that's the problem with healing and acceptance. Sometimes we don't sit enough with these emotions to recognize them and process them and say, oh, this is what I'm feeling. That's what holds us back from processing the grief.
Because we have not been taught how to accept our emotions. Men, for
That's another,
example, have been taught, oh, you don't cry because you're a man, or you this or that, especially in this world and day and age that we live that is so fast paced. And it's like we don't have time to process. I mean, that happens to me very often.
yeah,
I'm learning new ways to cope with my job because you know what I do being a nurse practitioner. And I also deal with the grief that the patients that are coming with the dementia diagnosis and their families.
yeah,
And I carry that with me in a way, because I have to also learn how to process that at the end of the day,
yeah.
because I'm also caring for them.
The men are not acknowledged in this process of grief sometimes. Like if you're talking to a little boy that just lost their father,
Right.
your relatives say, oh, now you're the man of the house. I'm like, what is a man of the house? This is a child,
Right.
you know? And they
Exactly.
are allowed to cry. Why not? We got to leave all that old stuff behind. That's why some of our men are not emotionally capable of handling a lot of things they should be doing. We need to help the men as well. We need to acknowledge that they have the right to cry, and little boys
Right.
too.
One of the things I love about your work is that you don't stop at surviving grief. You are helping people transform through it. One of my questions for you, so we can kind of open this discussion to the audience, is how can we begin to shift our perspective to see grief not only as pain, but as an opportunity for regrowth and rebirth?
The question that has been coming up this whole week for me, and I've been processing it as well and working on certain material about it, is who am I? So after the grief or after the person passes away, who am I? Who am I during this process? And that's very important for you to acknowledge. Who are you? You are a daughter that her father passed away. But then who are you? I am a woman. So the whole processing of who are you after your family member passes away is very important because that's how you can move forward. Acknowledge who you really are, what your emotions are, what you like, what you don't like. What are things that you always wanted to do and never got to do? Especially for the empty nesters. Sometimes we hang up our dreams to help the family as caregivers. We put everything to the side after we process and go through the beginning of acceptance because grief is forever. You lost somebody that you loved. They'll always be part of you. You'll always miss them. My father passed
Absolutely.
away in 2012, and I still see pictures of him and I laugh because he was a jokester. He was the jokester of the family. And my kids still remember that part about him. So what he taught me was like, don't take life so seriously. There is a joke or two that you could say. Just try to move on. Find the good in life.
I'm glad you mentioned that because now I think of my mother pretty much every single day that I come through my door because I'm always carrying things. And it always comes to mind something she used to say in Spanish about if you're carrying too many things, you're going to drop stuff. I don't know if you ever heard that saying. She was like the master. You were mentioning that he was a jokester. My mom was one of those that she was a teacher and she would say those old sayings. So she had one of those for everything.
Yeah. But if we hear them, we remember them.
Exactly. That's right. But when you think about it, they live with you. Your loved ones go with you everywhere in your mind and your thoughts and the feelings and the I don't know about you, but I still it's been probably closer to 25 years, I think, for me. And I still can recreate in my mind what it feels to hug my mother. I can remember the last time I gave her a hug and what it
It
actually felt to be
smells like.
closer to her chest. I think so, but mostly it was that hug I always remember. And a few other things, the camaraderie, the laughs, the good things, huh? And that's what we
Yeah.
need to do a lot because it's
Yeah.
not just the
Remember,
bad, but the good.
every time I pass well, like I said in the beginning, my mother did end up moving here with me. And one of the bedrooms that she was sleeping in, every time I pass it, I smell her perfume. And this is like 8 years ago already, 9 years that she's passed. Her last moments, I had to put her in a nursing home. That's another decision that's very personal. I was the only one here in Puerto Rico. I knew that she was going to be cared for because I knew the
Right.
lady and she just opened the space and she was very responsible and I can go and come as I wanted. And traveling to Ponce was kind of hard, but I got to see her more often and made sure she was taken care of. She used to love to dance whenever we did a birthday for her in the nursing home. It was a Mexican mariachi. Oh, she fell in love with him. That's my boyfriend. Okay. I always remember that. That's my boyfriend. Okay. That's nice to
Wow.
get him.
Wow.
Oh,
Beautifully said. And I also love how you approach this in a holistic manner. You bring together the breathing, the meditation, and even yoga as a tool. Can you share one or two simple practices to our listeners, like perhaps that they can start using right now to reconnect with peace and maybe calm some waves of grief?
I think the best thing I could probably mention is the breathing. Because when we cry, we tend to forget to breathe. And when we're going through heavy crying, we breathe even less. What I tell my students, because I also have a community service that I do, I give a yoga class once a week. I tell them this as well. You have to remember to breathe. And if you're going through something stressful, count backwards 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 before you even think about reacting. Those 5 seconds gives us enough time to like bring down the level of stress. The breathing that I taught them is sort of like a 4 count, 7 count. You breathe in through your nose, not your mouth, for a count of 4, and I'll just demonstrate it real quick. So it's 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I'm gonna hold my breath for 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I'm gonna release through my nose for a count of 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The longer we have in exhaling brings down the stress a little bit. Another thing besides the breathing and the counting, something real simple. Meditate for 5 minutes every day. When you get up from your bed, I always do like a gratitude thing,
Like
like
a morning meditation?
gratitude for my pillow, for my bed. Then I make my bed and then I take a shower because I like in the yoga processing, we like to take off any energy that we might have accumulated during our sleep. Then I sit down for half an hour and meditate. Later on in the day, before 8 p.m., I try to do another meditation. But if you start with something so small as 5 minutes and just sit quietly in a chair, in any chair that's comfortable, and just close your eyes and don't think about anything but your breathing, Just start with 5 minutes, and that'll really give you a boost of energy, a boost of focus. That's my word for
Yes,
the yeah, focus. We need to
that's right.
focus.
I recently got a new meditation app called Balance. One of the things I learned was to do something like that, especially when we're so busy. So again, because what we do as we get up in the early morning, it's that sets our,
The tone.
the ground for whatever is going to come throughout the day. And
Yeah.
so you take a deep breath and you breathe in, you say in
Hmm.
and then out. And you could do like five, count to five and so on. And I have noticed the difference, when
Yeah.
I'm peaceful, relaxed, whatever it is that the day brings on, right? Because challenges, they're always there,
Always
problems
be.
don't go away.
And another thing
Absolutely.
is, in reference to holistic thinking, if you can manage to get into writing about your grief, I'm going to be having workshops again once I come back from Japan. So,
Congratulations. Going for the first time?
yeah,
Where in Japan are you going?
I'm going to Tokyo and then Osaka.
Okay. That is
Mhm.
probably going to be my next. Well, probably not my next, but I've been thinking, definitely looking forward to go to Japan. I went to Hawaii and then, yeah, and I told my husband I want to go. Fiji,
Oh, Fiji. Okay.
Fiji, Bora Bora.
Well, far
I love the
away.
islands. I love islands.
Yeah, they
My
are beautiful.
favorites.
So,
So,
yeah, writing is good. Do
yes,
a journal, a daily journal, or writing letters to your deceased family or friend. And sometimes we never got to say much to them or we didn't really have the goodbye. Write it in a
right.
letter. And what I usually tell people is to burn it so the essence of the words go up into the sky, the energy. And painting, bring your inner child out for a walk. Go for a walk without shoes, without socks, in the grass, and let Mother Earth help you with your healing. Grab a tree and hug it.
Being outdoors is so important. We need to practice that more often. Light. I'm learning a lot about natural light and what it does for us. We live way too much indoors, and we
Indoors.
need
Yep.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you also
That's
talk about rebuilding confidence and, of course, rediscovering the purpose, which you said, yeah, find out who you are, after loss.
yeah.
And but what about those, because it might happen, other people say, "Well, I'm too broken right now. I'll do it later." They might think they have to achieve a certain level to be able to begin the healing process. Tell me about that. Do you know what that is like? I don't know. It
Yeah.
just came to
Depending on
mind.
the individual and how the person passed away, if it's suicide or they
Maybe the
uh,
denial process or the
yeah.
whole
Yeah,
stage.
grief processing is like a roller coaster. You can go through the whole process and come back again. So
Yes.
it's a never ending roller coaster until
It just maybe gets a little easier to ride.
exactly the ride is not as rough. But each individual is different. As far as rebuilding their confidence, they have to look within themselves and see if the processing of the grief is covering something else. The simple thing is just sitting with your emotions, accepting them, and letting yourself know that it's okay. It's okay for you to cry. It's okay for you to miss them. Let people know that you're still grieving. Sometimes your best friends tell you, "Oh, you're still grieving? It's been 3 months." I'm like, "Oh my God, I can't believe they said that." But
Yes.
since they don't understand, I'll give them that for that moment. But
Right.
after a chat with them and with me, then there's no excuse.
Right. Absolutely.
Because everybody grieves
Wow.
differently. You grieve differently from me, depending on the connection you have with the person, depending on your own knowledge of the process. See, with my father, I studied spiritualism and the yogi philosophy, and I also brought up Catholic. So I understand the transitioning of death. I'm at peace with it. I understand the process. And of course, I'm going to miss them. And someday I will see them again. That's
Right.
up to each person to understand the process and to be able
Right.
to go through it.
In medicine, something caught my attention, especially when I was doing family medicine. There is actually a diagnosis for prolonged grieving. And I'm thinking, like, who made this up? Who decides the
Yes.
cutoff time, And so, like, I don't even remember what was the cutoff time, but and I have to be honest with you, maybe I had to use the diagnosis a couple times to be able to send these patients to counseling or something. But at the same time, I was questioning if
It's good
at
that
the
you question.
year, I think more and more as we learn, that's how we grow. Many of us have been educated in different areas, medicine, science, and they can tell the difference of what they learned 30, 40 years ago and what we've been taught today. Things change so often. So how we grow and how we become to understand, the things that we're doing. For me, it's more like I am not one of those people that like, well, I just do it because that's the way they taught me.
I'm
That's not
curious why
so, yeah, that's not so much critical thinking there, right?
run because they said.
So,
I'm like, what? Because they said so. Who's they?
oh, we hear that a lot here. Yeah. Like,
They.
because they say so. I don't know about that. So, the title of your book, Serenity After the Storm,
Yeah, I got it
seems
here.
like it might feel impossible at first, but it is achievable. And I
Serenity
am
after.
just thinking because I haven't read your book and I think I would like to read it. I do want to read it. So I have a hunch that a few the things that we have discussed here, it's in your book, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And
But
I want to tell you the reason behind the title. My granddaughter is her name is Serenity,
oh,
and
okay.
it
That's a
reminded me.
beautiful name.
Yeah, thank you. So when her father passed away, she wasn't even a year old.
Oh, wow.
And when that happened, I had a dream that I was holding her and there was a storm in front of us. And that's basically the cover, a woman looking out into the sea where there's a storm, but there's a light at the end. So there is always light. There's always growth and love during the process of grief.
It's amazing how we can conceptualize or think and put those things in pictures, images that come to our mind.
Mhm.
Wow.
So
Let's talk a
these,
little bit about how culture, faith, languages shape the way that people grieve and how they heal. Let me ask you this. I don't know if you heard, but one time I heard, and I don't know if this is true. There is a culture in Africa where when a baby is born, they cry. And when somebody dies, they actually have a feast or some sort of a like
Mhm.
very interesting. Have you
Yeah,
ever heard of it?
yeah, I did a long time ago. And also where they,
That's
I forgot which is the culture. Oh my God. Is it Greek? Where they rent or they tell people to come and cry for the person that passed away. So they have criers.
oh, okay.
So they
Okay,
have.
probably because there might be a belief. That's interesting. That
Mhm.
is very interesting. Oh, do they do this in Puerto Rico? They do this in Colombia. They call it las nueve noches, the
Right?
ninth
Novena. Not
nights.
novena. Yeah.
Oh, so that's what the name of novena comes.
Yeah.
After
They,
the person dies, there's nine. They don't do that here in the US. I don't think so.
or if it's a Latin family, yeah.
But cross culture, yeah, I haven't seen that. But out there in Colombia, it's a good thing. So you go there and there's food and for nights,
Yeah. For 9 nights,
and
they pray the rosary. It depends if they pray one rosary or two, depending on what the family wants to do. And it's the day after they're buried. So if they're buried Sunday, then they start Tuesday.
wow.
They have a lot of
There's
things. In India, they do the cremation
okay.
automatically, and the family's
And then
there.
there's some other cultures that don't believe in cremation at all. Can I share a story? It's probably gonna be the second or third time I share it. So my mom passed away. I grew up in a Catholic family culture, and I was in a Catholic school. The nuns, I always remember this. They came in. There was a director of the school. There were like two more, and they were there. They kind of came, and then they asked, "So, how did she die of?" And then, because there was the rumor that it has been a suicide, they said, "Well, they say she killed herself." Those nuns have not heard the words when they literally turned around, packed, and went. And I never saw them again. I didn't think much of it because life went on. I was what, 17, 3 years later, find myself here in the US, go to college.
Mhm.
And then I'm reading, I think it was Hamlet, actually, literature. There is a part where Ophelia takes her own life, whether
Right.
I think by drowning or something. And so there's a part where we are analyzing the book, the something about the Catholic Church will deny, for her to be buried in what they call Camposanto or whatever,
Right.
because apparently for them, somebody who commits suicide is
Yeah.
a major sin.
Mm.
And so immediately I just thought that always, stuck in my mind and felt a different kind of way. So, oh, maybe that's why. But that's kind of sad though, because let's say that was the case. I felt like I was banned from the community. I left that little town. In 3 months, I was gone because it was not a good feeling. It was just not good. But again, this is almost 3 decades ago in a small town,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
the internet is just starting, the globalization, the people, maybe ignorance. But if you
Yeah.
think about it, you want to be supportive of the people. I was just a 17-year-old. I didn't understand much. And then I also shared a story of as I go to a psychologist, my family brings me like a month later, because they were worried about me or whatever. And I don't recall much of the conversation, but there's one thing I do recall. And this psychologist telling me, we're concerned that you're going to do the same thing that your mom did. I opened my eyes. The first thing that came to mind was, that was my mother. I'm a different, it was a sad feeling. I didn't know what to think, but I knew that I shouldn't be. Why would she tell me that? And this was a psychologist. It's one of those things. And then, I became to study and to learn that yes, there is the whole genetics and the whole thing, but don't
Yeah.
lose track that we are all individuals. No matter
Exactly.
what your parents do, what happens, you are your own person. That's probably why I am the way, yeah, of course, because things shapes us. But I'm not gonna say that I'm super individualistic, but I believe very much in the person. I
Yeah.
love to when someone comes to me and tells me don't go next to her, I'm a little curious and I might be, let me find out on my own. Let me make that decision myself. And then I might find out that it's a great person. I have a great relationship because
Yeah.
once again, I want to get to know the person. To me, we are all so unique.
Each individual, it's sort of like that game where you start in a circle and you say a sentence to the next person. By the time it comes back to the last person, it's a totally different story. So everybody's
Absolutely.
perception is different. And everybody's perception is also different. Like, what do I hear? What do you hear? What did you just see? Somebody just ran across. What did you see? What did I see?
I think they call it the broken phone. In Spanish es el teléfono roto. The broken phone.
What?
Did you ever play a game that we had that we took like two foam cups and then we put like a little thread in it? And
Yeah.
then, or
Use
you
to,
go like this and say one
yeah.
thing and turn around. And at
Yeah.
the end of the line, there's always something completely different
Yeah.
because
You know,
everybody is a world. Everybody's have
mhm,
their own mind and you're going to perceive and hear something.
everything different.
Yeah. It's
It's just
amazing
like,
how the
yeah,
human
it's just
mind
like
works.
in reference to NLP, we go through what we call second positioning, where we are positioned to explain what we're going through, but then I want you to go into your father's shoes, make believe you're him, and see what he says about you. What does he perceive about you? That's really mind blowing because you have to get into their shoes, and it's totally different from what you actually thought they thought of you.
That might give you a perspective where you're like, huh, if
Mm.
I look at this situation in the eyes on this other person, no wonder. Maybe I can finally understand where they're coming from and
From
why they're judging the situation in such and such way. And so often we don't stop. And I think
no,
that's one of the dangers of the current, landscape or the current we're moving so fast.
too fast.
So fast. And that's why you said it at the beginning. We all need time for reset. We need a moment. I don't know if it's at the end of the day, 5 minutes, or one day out of the week, but we need to stop and think and process about what is it that we're doing, you know, our
Yes.
daily routines, the things that we go through, because life is not easy.
And right now we have too much information, too many
Wait,
things.
and so we have to be intentional with what we let in. I have made some changes that I'm very happy to. I was being bombarded with so many things. One of the recent changes I made that really helped me a lot is we have to take advantage of everything that we have lately. We have all these gadgets and things. And so what happened was at the beginning of the week, I had to my husband's car was in the shop. So for like 3 days, we had to all ride in a bus. I had my kids, my husband. So I was
Oh,
like doing this thing.
okay.
But it was a complete different from my routine where I just go to work on my own. And so at that point, I was getting bling, bling, bling. There was the kids in the back. And I'm like, at one point, I said to my husband, please find that button in that phone that says that when you come in, it just goes off or something. Turn out this noise. And so he did it. And it's like every time now that I enter my car, my phone kind of shuts itself off and it puts it like on drive mode. Let me tell you, I have enjoyed my rides because I'm not longer have this bling or the messages coming through that I'm driving and then there's traffic and this and that. I'm loving it because now work can reach me. When I'm to work, I can take care of that. I'm loving it.
Yeah, setting boundaries, definitely. And
Ex-
during grief, we need to set boundaries too. Set boundaries of when people are calling you, like, don't call me after 9 o'clock. I'm sleeping. I need to sleep. I need to rest.
But you know how it is now because we're so super connected and people just text you at any time. So you know what the best boundary is? It's like I turn that little button that ring, ring, ring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because people are not gonna stop.
Yeah. So my ringer, I don't hear it during the night.
My phone doesn't have a ringer. I do it on purpose because the way I do it is it makes me it gets me the feeling that I'm the one in control. That I'll check it whenever I have the time.
You
Otherwise, I'll go crazy.
good. Set a boundary, you see?
Oh yeah. And my husband is so funny. He said, now you can choose who can call you during that time. I'm the only one allowed to bother you while you're driving. He doesn't, but he was just messing with me. So yeah, absolutely. Wow. So Ada, do you want to tell us a little bit more about your book, where people can find it?
Yeah, my book is Serenity After the Storm. It's available on Amazon in paperback form and ebook. And also the Spanish version is available in paperback and ebook. And it can
And you
also be
also,
purchased through PayHip.
you also have a coaching business, right? Do you have a website?
I'm working on my website, but I can be reached through my email, amalaverivera@gmail. I can also be reached through Facebook, just like that. Ada Malavé, I'm on there. I'm on LinkedIn and also Instagram.
Right.
Business, it's called Transformational Grief Coach Services. So I am able to help individuals, particularly women. If I can't help you, I can always set you up with another coach, male coach, or anyone else that's available.
Absolutely. Well, Ada, this conversation has been so meaningful. But before we close,
Yes.
what is that final message that you would like to leave our audience with today?
My final message is be kind to yourself, believe in yourself, believe in God, believe in whatever God, universe you believe in, and look for help if you feel that you're drowning in sadness. We're always also giving, giving, giving. Let others, and you should be receiving as well. Although we're being tough and like I'm superwoman, no, I can do everything. No, give somebody else a moment so they can acknowledge you and so you can receive their assistance, their love, which is the most important thing that I believe in. Love each other.
Yes. I always remind my patients, give yourself some grace, because life is tough.
Be
Thank you
kind
so
and
much for that. Thank you, Ada, for your work, for your compassion, your light.
thank you.
Friends, if today's episode spoke to your heart, please take a moment to connect with Ada Malavé, just like that. Malavé. I'll put it on here on the description. And like she said, you can find her at link3/am underscore transformational grief coach. And then you can get her book, Serenity After the Storm. If you're navigating grief, just remember you don't have to do it alone. Transformation begins with awareness,
Okay.
compassion, courage. Thank you for
Yes.
tuning in to Rosabel Unscripted. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, share it with someone who might need to hear this. Until next time, take care of your mind, your body, your heart. I'm Rosabel. This is Rosabel Unscripted. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Goodbye.